Okay, so we're talking about accessing the software programs from Amazon Workspaces, and we're finding out that we're having some issues with logging in. It's asking for Adobe email or Adobe account. So I am going to put that tech request into our IT person and see if I can get an answer for you by Monday so that we can all have access to this. And if I get an answer sooner, I'll put it up in an announcement. So check your Canvas, you know, even over the
Well,
weekend.
hang on. Sorry, my Wi-Fi is a little bit choppy.
Oh, okay.
I was able to get in. It's the same login as the Canvas thing, just without the add student SSBCCC whatever.
Oh, okay. So
Just
for the email,
yeah,
you just type
just
in your student email?
yeah, just well, yeah, just the Canvas information without the add student dot etc.
Oh, okay. Okay.
At least
So,
that's what I was getting. I can't test that right now because Wi-Fi is kind of slow and it needs Wi-Fi to connect.
uh-huh, uh-huh.
Mm.
Okay. So when you got to that, just to clarify again, when you got to, when they asked you for an Adobe email, you typed in your student email without,
Mm.
what was that again? You typed in what?
Just the Canvas information because when I get in, it asks for register,
Okay,
and then which is just using the register code you gave us.
right,
And then afterwards, just type in. It just asked me to log in with Valley student credentials.
right. And you were actually able to get into the software? You saw it
So
boot
far,
up?
yeah. So far, it worked the same way for me.
Okay, okay.
Let
So
me
I
try
guess
that
when
one
it
more time.
asks you for that, then type in your email.
If you would like, I can show him my screen.
Okay, I'd appreciate that.
Yeah, let me just get the share screen right.
Thank you
There
guys
we go.
for doing all of this because
No problem.
I'm kind of
Right
blocked
here. Let
out.
me. Yeah, there you go. Sorry. Yeah. I started logging in, and when it asks you to put your email, just put the email that you use for your Gmail account for the student,
Okay,
and then it'll take you automatically to the SBCCD portal, and then you
okay,
could just regularly log in for that one.
okay.
Oh wait, I see the problem that they're talking about. It's not like logging into the workshop, the workspace in the first place. It's the Adobe Creative Cloud, right? Like as
Yeah.
soon as you get into
But I tried putting in my student account for that one too, and it recognized it.
Oh,
And then
okay,
it
good.
automatically took me here. So it might be also linked to the student account.
Yes, it is because that's, I sent him all of your emails, all your student emails, and he set it up for each individual email.
We'll find out right now. Okay, apparently that didn't work.
Yeah, this is great that you're showing everybody because
Thank you.
it was not set up for me, so I can't get past this screen right here.
I think it has to be. Well, actually, I don't know because it's not recognizing my name account. Yeah, I don't know then because it's not registering it.
But it worked for you before.
I didn't get this far, but it's not registering my account even though I keep putting it in correctly. Let me see if I can get it in the background. Let's see.
Okay, well, while you try, I'm going to just kind of continue on and then we'll
Yes,
see if
please.
we'll see if we can get this going. If you get in, just let us know. Okay, so my confidence level is high that this is going to work. So I'm going to continue on And okay, so here's the thing, is that usually in the first day of class or the first or second day of class, I introduce the software. I talk about InDesign and Photoshop, and we usually start with Adobe InDesign. And I usually give a demo, kind of an introductory demo on the interface and the tool palette, and I mean the toolbar and the palettes and just the overall, and we do some very basic things. But I'm gonna bypass that for this because I'm gonna send you to a video of a guy that does this. He's an Adobe instructor, certified Adobe instructor, and he has a whole video. It's like 2.5 hours long on an introduction to InDesign. And he's, you know, he does it much better than me. He's got lots of good examples. And as far as my goal here is for us to just kind of get up to speed in terms of how to open up the software, how to set up a page, how to access the type tool, how to draw images and things like that, that I don't really need to spend time on doing. You can watch this on your own time. He's got a great video on it. Let me share my screen and direct you to that. Now, if some of you are already familiar with InDesign, that's great. Maybe you used it before, maybe you've taken a class at Valley or somewhere else in high school and you've used this program before, that's fine. But I know that in this class, in these classes, a lot of students are unfamiliar with InDesign. Photoshop is a little bit different. A lot of people kind of, you know, can get around Photoshop, but even then, Photoshop isn't a requirement. So if you have no idea of Photoshop either, this guy also has a really good video on Photoshop. This one's called InDesign for Beginners. And, you know, as you can see, it's, you know, it's a 2-hour and 24-minute video. Not that you have to watch all of this, but it's kind of a good, you know, reference, if you will. If you go down, I think he has laid out, yeah, he's laid out time code here as far as what he talks about, and that's very easy to find things. Okay, so if you want to know about text or images or things like that, sharing files, you can just click here and go right to it. So think of this as kind of an online book. He's the author. You're gonna, you know, kind of use him for reference in terms of that. I could do that, but we would waste several classes in me just going over basically what he's going to go over anyway. So I would like to get to a point where we can just dive right in and start doing. I'm going to start demoing, and I don't have to stop and, you know, say, well, this is how you save a document, and this is how you open up a page and set margins and all of that. So that I will, and I have a link for that on the first assignment. And I'm kind of wondering if I'm sorry, if I posted that first assignment. I might not have. Oh, okay, yeah, InDesign for Beginners. So I will post this right here, InDesign for Beginners. And in that, you will see that link right here. And you can click on it and go right to that video. This is going to be kind of your first assignment, is to get up to speed with InDesign and just basically know how to navigate it. Okay. So look for that. I'll be publishing that. I'll be posting that later this afternoon. Again, with the software, if you want to purchase it, I highly recommend that. And like I was saying in the last class, you know, if this is your major, if this is what you're thinking of doing for a living, then sooner or later you're going to have to you know, buy this software. It's the tools of the trade. What I do want to talk about, though, is something that I talk about in graphic design. And so before we get into the actual mechanics of the software, uh, I want to put this all kind of in perspective in terms of what we're learning in the whole scheme of graphic design. So what I've done, and again, let me share my screen here, is I put up a little, now I don't do PowerPoint stuff, but I did do a little graphic here in InDesign. When I zoom in, do you guys see that zoom?
Yes.
You see me zooming in and it gets bigger on your screen? Because I know when I use my control scroll, it doesn't, you guys don't see that, but okay. I made a little 12-point kind of presentation here, and I talk about this in my graphic design class, because in graphic design, we talk a lot about the business itself. And, it's all about, we all get into this in terms of art and our love of art and drawing and, typography possibly, but illustration. But really, this whole subject is a business. And it kind of starts there's a process to graphic design. It's a little bit different if you work for a design company than if you're in business for yourself. And rather than go through the business end of this, which this class really isn't about, but I do want to mention it because I want to mention what part 148 plays in this whole scheme of a graphic design business. And so I'm very quickly going to go through these points, and that's the main part of my lecture today, is to kind of put this all into perspective. And the scenario that I'm going to use is one that you are starting your own business in graphic design. Now, again, that's one thing that I really don't recommend for beginning design students or graduates right out of school to get in and start your own business. Now, I know a lot of people do that. I know a lot of people want to do that, but I really think it's much more beneficial for you to work for a design company, a design firm, an agency, an in-house art department, so that you can see how they conduct business, how they get clients, how they deal with clients, how they make presentations, how they deal with the finances and all of those things, which a lot of times when we're first starting out, I mean, we don't know, we do it by the seat of our pants. And, I remember many freelance jobs that I did when I first started out that I had no idea what I was doing, and I lost money, or I didn't get paid, in time, or I had to, sometimes I just got totally stiffed by a client. I was so excited to get a job, and I did it, and then they never paid me. So, the business of design is really vital in anything. Business is important. So it starts off with marketing. We need to market ourselves, our business. We need to, do that through social media, through a website. But we need a lot of marketing tools to get our name out there, to get, to start and get established. Once we do that, and this is not a marketing class, the other school that I teach at, we have specific classes for each one of these, just about each one of these points right here is a separate class. We have a marketing class, we have a presentation class, portfolio presentation class, so forth. Anyway, let's say we finally get that first contact with a client that wants to hire us. So we go for, they call us up, they've seen our work online, on our website, they're interested, and now they want to meet with us. So there is an initial client meeting. And those meetings are usually between you and your client in terms of them explaining to you what it is they're looking for. And you kind of determining whether or not you want this job, whether or not you're capable of handling this job. you're not necessarily talking money at this point, but experienced designers will get to the money in the initial client meeting very quickly. Actually, before you even meet, a lot of experienced design firms will kind of already know whether or not this is a meeting that they're even, they even want to go to. So we have this initial client meeting, which is usually a sit down with, the people that are going to be involved in the project, and they talk and you listen. They talk about what they need, whether it's a catalog or a brochure or a website or whatever. And you absorb all of that information. They called you in because they already feel that you are capable. They've seen your work. And now it's a matter of, okay, we're throwing the ball in your court. What do you think? Now, a lot of you deciding whether you want this project, whether you can handle this project, has to do with, the complexity of it, obviously, the amount of work, the resources that you're going to be having to tap into. If there's lots of photography and you're not a professional photographer, you might have to hire out. You might have to hire out illustrators, definitely printers, if this is a print job. So you have to ask yourself, am I capable of doing this? If you are, then the next step is to estimate a cost for this, which is very difficult to do when you're first starting out, because estimating is, you need to have done these type of jobs to estimate them, to know how much roughly it's going to cost. And so you have to kind of come up with a proposal. And in that, it really is an estimate. Now, not all jobs are really that complex where you're going to have all of these things happening. Maybe it's a really simple job. Maybe someone just wants a flyer, or someone just wants you to design a logo. But in any event, the most important thing, and in graphic design, I've said this over and over again, the most important thing is making sure you know what you're going to make before you even take this job. Because if you start working on a job before you even know how much money you're charging, or you're expecting, or they're expecting you to charge, then you're going to get stiffed. 9 times out of 10 you will. If you don't set hard and fast deadlines, usually clients, you kind of expect, well, clients are going to give me the deadlines, but not necessarily. The worst type of client is the one that says, I don't know, I don't need it right away. Take your time. I mean, you tell me. Well, that's exactly what you have to do. You have to make sure that you set the deadline, because time is money, right? You can't have a small logo project go on for 3 months. You're just going to lose money. It's not worth it. So you say things like, okay, I'll have something for you in a week. But in any event, you want to estimate the dollar cost, including, obviously what profit margin you're going to make off of this, how many vendors you're going to have to hire, what you're going to have to buy out, what your markup is going to be. So there's a lot of different factors involved, but you want to get that money out of the way before you start. And then once you start the project, once you agree on it, and definitely it's a contract that they sign, okay? They are signing, saying that it's an estimate confirmation. They're saying that they require, you're requiring them to commit to this job. And then there's usually a money exchange. And for a reputable design firm, they will ask for money up front. For most of people starting out, it's really hard to ask for money up front, because they're like, no, I'm not going to pay you anything until I see something. So in that case, you're going to have to produce something. But, if you take my graphic design class, we get very deep into how to do that. But let's say at this point, you have agreed upon an estimated price. You have agreed to take the job. And so now a lot of times there's a second meeting, and that meeting is now a nuts and bolts meeting. Now we're talking about, okay, what exactly are we going to do? How many pages is it going to be? How many photographs do you want? Are we shooting the photos? Are you supplying the photos? You know, all these real nuts and bolts questions that you're going to need to actually put something together. And that's where we come into the ideation or the creative part of it. Well, actually what we do is we write up what's called a creative brief. So a creative brief is something that a designer will write and pass off to a client in terms of how they creatively feel that they're going to solve this problem. Some verbal, written verbiage on, written verbiage on the project, what some possible potential creative ideas might be. Of course, they don't know what it's going to look like yet, but you're kind of throwing out the, the creative. And you're kind of finding out, you're kind of feeling them out to see if they're, they're agreeable on that, if you're kind of on the same page. So a lot of times designers will actually ask for them to sign off on a creative brief. Like, we're going to take it in this direction. So don't tell us 2 weeks from now that we're totally in the wrong direction and we're not, we're way off base. So creativity is something that's very hard to agree on. You throw out an idea, the reaction is, yeah, that's kind of like that. But I'll know it when I see it, So obviously they need to see something. Okay, so once you have creative, you have a good creative direction, then it's now a matter of actually getting down and executing something. And so I have thumbnail ideation sketches and comp execution. This is where Art 148 comes in, this class. This class is based on computer graphics and teaching you how to use software to create ideas, whether they're brochures or websites or flyers or booklets or logos or anything that a graphic designer does. So this is where our class is going to be focused on. We're not focusing on marketing. We're not focusing on estimating jobs. We're not even going to focus on doing presentations to clients or pre-press, dealing with printers, digital preparation for websites, press checks for printing, launching websites. We're not going to go into any of this area. What we're going to really focus on is execution. How do we execute these ideas in a software program? Now I will from time to time, make mention of these things, but the focus is not going to be on that. If you want more focus on these things, then graphic design, Art 145 is a class that you might want to take, that I teach. Okay, so let's get into this area. Really, comp execution is what we're talking about. But thumbnail ideation sketches has always been part of the way a graphic designer thinks. And I am going to go to a second camera here. Let me stop here. Got my phone set up here. That's trained on my sketchbook here. Let me just kind of pin that video up here. Okay. This is my sketchbook of all kind of things. As a designer and artist, you'll probably have lots of these things. I use them for all kind of things, for fun, for actual work, for thinking, for ideas. Just to kind of show you, a sketchbook is usually something that is just a mishmash of all kind of your thoughts, and hopefully I don't have anything obscene in here. But this is what I use to sketch. I teach several classes. I teach drawing classes, life drawing classes, And so I just play around, whether it's a pen, a pencil, markers. I love markers because I grew up in a era, pre-computer era, where we did everything by hand. We sketched ideas for clients. We use markers to comp them up. That's what a comp is. When I say a comp, I'm talking about what's called a comprehensive. Now, everything that we do, that we show clients is, is done on the computer. It's all finished. But back then, we didn't have computers, so we had to kind of draw it up before we hired a photographer to shoot it. So these are just kind of, sketches with markers. And then this is some fun stuff. I was just playing around with, drawing some stuff from Rome, from Italy, and yeah, I don't know, just all kind of stuff. One thing leads to another, and it's like page after page. I was doing arm sketches from my life drawing class. So this is all kind of a mishmash of stuff. Every page, but thumbnails, okay? What is a thumbnail? We were told in design school, when I went to design school, I don't know how much this is being emphasized, but I know in animation, in fields like, higher end design, advertising, animation fields, sketching is still a big part of the process. We have to take drawing classes. We have to take drawing classes because sketching is not something that we're going to do for finish. Sketching is something that we can create ideas with, and it's still much faster to sketch than it is to do this on the computer. So take this page, for instance. This right up here is a thumbnail of a layout for a national parks brochure. And that national parks brochure might end up, when it's finally printed, might end up looking something like this. Or you open it up. You have a photograph across the top. You have images and text. You have like a map down here. So the ideation of this occurred in this stage right here, okay? This is a big sequoia tree. This is the Ahwahnee Hotel in Yosemite. This is El Capitan. This is an idea for a box with text in it. But this is the ideation for maybe what the actual brochure might end up being. We might do several sketches like this, pages and pages of ideas of what the look of it's going to be. There's all kind of ways to lay things out. That's one thing in design that you'll experience the rest of your life. I mean, there's, like they say, there's tons of ways to skin a cat, and we can do layouts till the end of time. These are not. I'm going to show you some other thumbnails here. Some really rough kind of thumbnail ideation here. These are birds. Okay, here's something here that's a thumbnail. Now, when you look at this one, you can see that it's really not finished at all. I mean, it's just right out of the head to the arm, to the pencil, to the paper. But in this, you can kind of see the thought. And the thought is that there's going to be some text here. There's going to be an image here, maybe some text here. And as it goes across the page, it's going to be kind of image and text and text and image and text and image all the way through. So I'm getting a feel for a kind of layout that I want to, that I'm going to try. So by the time I get to the computer, I already have mapped out what it's going to, what it's going to be. And let me show you kind of an example of that. If I can find it. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so here's a page for, this might be for a book of birds. And so the idea is that these are going to be full 8.5 by 11 pages with nicely illustrated birds. Illustration is going to be the way we solve this problem, not photography. You know, I don't know if you've seen a lot of bird illustrations, but man, they're incredible. And this might be something as a designer, you're going to hire an illustrator to do this. But as a designer, you want to lay out the page. And so we're trying different ideas here for what these pages would look like in the book. You know, here we have several birds on a page. Here we have, you know, a couple of birds, one large, one small in the background. Different color treatments. Maybe this is black and white, and this is color. Again, large type here and smaller descriptive text here. Okay, so out of these 5 little thumbnails, I'm getting an idea of, you know, how is this going to look? Now remember, I was telling my other design class this. You might not be the illustrator of this, but you will have to hire an illustrator, and you'll have to explain to that illustrator what you're looking for and what style you want. You have to art direct that illustrator. So it's very important that you know this and you know what you want rather than being able to do it yourself. Now, if you can illustrate, if you are the person that's going to do this, more power to you. You'll make more money. Okay, the more skills you have, the better chances you'll make good money. But you don't necessarily have to do this. You hire people to do this. So you might even take it a step further. And okay, so these are a little bit, this is more of a detail of what we're looking for in terms of texture, color, and then in terms of the layout, this is maybe what we're looking for. So this is a tighter version of this thumbnail right here. And from this point, from this little comp, I can give that to an illustrator and I could say, okay, this is the way, you know, this is what we're looking for. And the illustrator, you know, would have enough information to, you know, really know what we're looking for. And that's important for an illustrator, for anyone that's doing artwork for you, that they're confident that they're on the same page as you. Because this is very time consuming. If this was being done by hand, it would be extremely time consuming. If it was painted in oils or acrylics or even watercolor, even if this was done digitally, it would still involve, you know, quite a few hours to get this look. So the closer you can communicate with an illustrator, you know, the better it is for all of you. But this is kind of how that page would be laid out. So this idea of thumbnail ideation sketches is a very important first step before we actually get into the execution of this. Now I want to explain a little bit about why we're using this software. There's 3 main, you know, the big 3 software programs for graphic design is Adobe Illustrator, Adobe InDesign, and Photoshop. And the way to think about it is think about each program as specializing in elements that designers need. Photoshop is actually a photo manipulation program. It always was, it still is, although it does many other things. Photoshop is actually probably one of the most widely used software programs in graphics. Not only in graphics, but it's used in all kind of different fields, from architecture to video editing to you name it. I mean, everybody uses Photoshop. My sister used to do quilting or crafting, and she used Photoshop. So I think that's why so many people know Photoshop or a little bit about it. But mainly it's for photography, and it manipulates pixels and special effects and all kind of stuff. So that is a major program, but it's not necessarily a program for doing page layout. If it's a single page, great. You can set text, you can do everything that I just showed you in that book page. But if you have multiple pages, if you have a 256 page catalog, you are not going to do that in Photoshop. So that's the strength of Photoshop. Adobe Illustrator is a vector art program that does illustration. That's why it's called Illustrator. And it is great for things like logos, for, even photorealistic art you can do in Illustrator. There's also this concept of art boards where you don't need a single file anymore to use Illustrator. You can set up a number of art boards and have kind of multiple pages in a sense in one document. It used to be before, you'd have to open up a separate file for every page. So obviously you're not going to do that. But really vector art is Illustrator's strength. And so we use Illustrator to draw and to illustrate. We use Photoshop to manipulate photography. We use Lightroom to edit photography. Photoshop can do much of what Lightroom can do. In fact, Lightroom was born out of Photoshop. But Lightroom has a much faster and more efficient workflow than Photoshop. You still need Photoshop, and that's why when you buy the bundle at Adobe, it's usually Lightroom and Photoshop you get. But for a lot of people, commercial photographers, wedding photographers, event photographers, Lightroom is kind of a program of choice because it enables you to edit just massive amounts of photos very quickly. Then we have InDesign, and that's the program that we're going to kind of start with. Now, InDesign is a page layout program. And as you can see here, I go back here. This is the interface of Adobe InDesign. And through this video that you'll watch, if you're not familiar with this, he'll go in and explain, the toolbar, the contextual menu. Now he does it a little bit different than I have it set up, but you'll get enough out of it to, so when we get back together, when we meet back again on Monday and I start doing demos, I'm gonna have you set up your workspace like mine. I'm gonna have you, of course, we can all get in, but we're gonna go with the Essentials Classic workspace. And that way, what I do, you'll see. Now, there's two ways that you can deal with this, with the demos. You can watch me do it and then do it on your own and watch the video and kind of play around with some of the things that I did. That might be the best way to do it. The other way would be to do it at the same time that I'm doing it. Okay, so you're working as I'm working. Which means that you're going to have to minimize your screen on the left side of your computer, unless you have a dual monitor, that would be great. And then you're going to have to open up your version of InDesign on the right side, and then follow me as I go. That might prove to be a little frustrating because your computer, if you make a mistake and you have to stop and go, oh, what did he do? It might be easier if you just kind of watch and then watch the video as you're doing it. But yeah, once you're set up like mine, then as I go to these menus and palettes, like if I open up pages here, it'll be located here, layers, links, you know, things like that. My swatches are out. Um, and so there's nothing more frustrating, I think, than me having my interface set up differently than you. Now, if we were doing this in class, that's the first thing that I would make sure everyone was doing, is looking at the same interface as me, setting it up the same way. And he will go through all of that in that video, that intro video. But he does emphasize, and you will hear one of the biggest pluses of InDesign is that you can set up see if I went to new document, okay, up to file and new document, right here, number of pages. I mean, I can literally set up, you know, 256 pages. And when I create that document, let me just set up a very quick, you know, 24-page document. Okay, I'm going to make it facing pages like a book, so it sets up like a book or a magazine. And then when I create that, you're going to see when I look at pages over here, I have 24 pages. And the first page is the cover, the second page is a spread, just like you do a magazine. Okay, it's exactly the same thing. So in my book here, you know, this represents the cover. And then you open it up and it's a spread that goes across. And that's what 2 and 3 represent. Okay, and you can see it's a left side page and a right side page. So this is the software program that we're going to use, that you would use to create multiple page document, a flyer, a brochure, a booklet, a catalog. Now, can you do a single page document in InDesign? Absolutely. You could also do that in Photoshop. You can do it in Illustrator. Okay, but this is where InDesign really is powerful in being able to create multiple pages. Now, another thing that makes InDesign very powerful is the fact that it does not embed images and very, you know, large files in the document. What it does is it references those photos to your hard drive. So you're bringing in photos into InDesign, but they're not embedded in the document like in Photoshop. So if you brought in, you know, a 500 megabyte photo in Photoshop, that Photoshop file is going to be at least 500 megabytes. But if you brought in a 500 high resolution image into InDesign, all it's going to do is reference that photo on your hard drive. It's going to point to it. So the actual InDesign file is not large at all. It's a very small file. It's very similar for those of you that use Lightroom, it's very similar to Lightroom. Lightroom does not, you don't import photos. Well, you import photos, but they're not in the file of Lightroom. In Lightroom, you don't save your file. So anyway, we'll get to that point. And that's a very important thing to understand, because you can really get kind of messed up in InDesign if you start moving files around in your hard drive. Let's say you built a file in InDesign, and then let's say you went back to your hard drive and you said, you know what, I'm going to organize this now. I'm going to put this in a folder and this in a folder and this photo in a folder. And then you try and open up your InDesign file and it's just disaster. So we're going to talk a lot about working smart in this program, because we have to stay very organized when we use this program.
Professor,
yeah.
I hate to interrupt, but we're about to hit 11 o'clock and I got another Zoom lecture. So would it be all right if we start?
Yes, in fact, I'm going to cut it right now. Okay, I'm not going to give you an assignment other than to watch that video. Yeah, I've got 10:56. Thank you for letting me know, because I've got a class that starts at 11 too. So let's do that, and I'm going to put that request in to the IT person. Now, if you guys can figure that out, if that's working for you, great, but let me just, you know, just to be safe, I'll ask that question. Okay? Is that good with everyone? Let me stop sharing my screen, and I will see you all.
Oh, real quick side note, I
Yes.
wasn't able to log in. It just kept refreshing the login page no matter how many times I tried.
I was able to get in with Valley info.
You
I
were.
wasn't. It just kept refreshing.
Okay. For who was able to get in?
Me, Moises.
Moises.
Was
Is
he
that
able
your
to
name?
get the applications
Yeah.
running?
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay. Would you be willing to be a contact for people to ask you how you did it?
Sure.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. Maybe you can. Let's see. How can we do this? Maybe you can post to. I'll put up a discussion on Canvas, and it'll be InDesign. It'll be called InDesign troubleshooting. I'll put a discussion up, and then you can log in and maybe write out your process, your steps.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, can you do that? And then all of
Sure.
you other people that are having, if you're having trouble, just go into the discussion in Canvas. It'll be under discussions, and you can comment and chat with each other there. Okay, and I'll check it out myself. Okay, I'll let you guys go. All right, take care.